Next meeting, May 9th.
Oop,
Everybody's,
sorry. Want to repeat the date?
Tuesday, May 9th.
Tuesday, May 9th meeting, 6 o'clock. Chairman called meeting to order. Willie Stevens.
We have the business unknown.
Do we have Gary coming tonight?
No, I have stuff from Gary to read, so let me just get it. And so on H Foot Road, Gary is not gonna be here tonight, so he sent me a small narrative to read, if that's all right, Mr. Chairman. It says, below is an update of projects that TMG is working on for you. As discussed earlier, today's team provides a quick summary of the key points for each. H Foot Road project last week, DEP extended the original deadline of 5/5/17 for lead drinking water sampling in the area of Eleanor Lane until none specific PRP and DEP work out a sampling protocol. I think there were some questions on Eleanor Lane. But she's not here right now. I'm unaware of a new deadline at this point. No new information on DEP's website regarding this project. An IRA status report should be submitted to DEP within about 30 days. And that's on H Foot Road project. So, 90 Flint Road, CMG conducted the 6-month groundwater, surface water, and landfill gas sampling last week. Results are due next week. So, in 54 Flint Road landfill, CMG plans to conduct the 6-month sampling groundwater and surface water sampling next week. No landfill gas points at this site. DEP has asked CMG to prepare the health and safety plans that the board had mentioned, and he's going to proceed with this. So the DEP complete the administrative review. They're waiting for the health and safety plan, so he's working on that. He told me to let everyone know. CMG will submit the HSP next week. DEP also asked CMG to incorporate the historic data from 2010 with the 2016 and 17 groundwater data, so the DEP conduct comprehensive review of the 2010 closure report. CMG will submit the Q2 2017 groundwater data report to DEP in June of 2017. So, and he submitted the status report for Robin to sign and get it in this week. Right, on the release, tracking number 2-19926, drinking water impacts on Flint Road from 54 Flint Road landfill. CMG completed a 6-month status report last week for review by Robin Craver and Jim Philbrook. Report is and will be submitted to DEP today or tomorrow. No new impacts. Treatment working well at 59 Flint Road. I know we had, Gary had a problem with the filtration system. Doubled it up, they changed the whole thing out, so it's working fine now. We still have them on bottled water until we get another duplicate that's correct. So he is getting bottled water also, because we didn't want to take that chance, because when we stop it, then he was out of water. So
That's the only one on Flint Road anyway. There's one other one.
yeah, the 63 and then this 54, the White Brosky.
So Jim, you said that they switched out the filters, is that it?
He doubled up the cartridge filters, that still didn't work, so we provided bottled water and then changed the whole system out. We continue to provide bottled water, even though the reports have come back that it's okay, just to make sure we don't stop it and something happens because of what happened before. So the comprehensive initial site assessment report is due for DEP submittal in July of 2017, and that report will have an outline of a plan of action. So Gary said he's available if any of the board members have any questions of him. That's his report.
Will Gary be coming to these meetings on occasion, or is
Yeah.
this?
Yep.
Okay. Funding was cut
Yeah.
back.
I wanted to ask, Jim, maybe you would know, do we need to take a vote to allow Robin to sign the status report?
Good question. And she had me look over the report, and I called Gary this morning, and we went over it together. And he feels that the report should be submitted as, his recommendation to me, to the board, is that as submitted, be signed and sent through by Robin, because it's dated. But yes, I think the board should, I know he sent it to everyone. I read it. Robin asked me questions again. I said, well, let me talk to Gary first and talk, we have a meeting tonight. So I talked to Gary, went over everything, and he feels that what's in here is minimal, but it's to the point, and it's due.
Yeah, he said there's no changes.
There's no changes.
So, through the chair, I make a motion that we request Robin to sign our status report for us. For what year is it, 2017?
Yeah, May 4th of 2017.
May 4th, 2017.
Second.
It's due what date? What's the deadline?
She needs to sign it Thursday, so he can submit
Okay.
by Thursday.
Second.
Yeah,
In
second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm glad you brought that up, because you're right, there should come from a recommendation from the board, even though she, and I went over it with Gary and wanted to be assured that we didn't miss or add anything in there or do anything that would, you know.
Through the chair, can we ask this office, or let Robin know that we voted on that, and that we're requesting her to do that on our
Sure.
behalf?
I'll send her emails, and I'll forward the email to the board members also.
Thanks, Jim.
Have anything, anybody, any questions? About H-Foot Road, Elena, Lane Drive?
Well, I can add some stuff to that, and I think Melissa Whiting and John Jordan cannot be here, but I did speak to him, and I think you just spoke to him, correct? That he has 50 signed agreements from the residents that meets the requirements for the ACO to be signed, which I have a copy of right here, it's for the water line to be installed.
What was the minimum that they were looking for?
50.
Well, they were looking for
37. 37 minimum.
37, but it was Eleanor Lane had 8, H-Foot Road had 9, Berry Corner Road, so it was broken down into the areas of exactly what they needed, and I can download the email from that we received, but I think we have more than sufficient, and he's gonna stop by with the 50, and I think you said you have a few more tomorrow,
Yes,
so.
I do.
That's great.
So it's great, and hard work by the Whitings and by the Jordan, and all the people of, H-Foot Road, Eleanor Lane, and Berry Corner Road, because they've been advocates for themselves also, as well as the board, and they've been out working and boots to the ground.
For them,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been.
I think I'm gonna have to knock on doors, because I think there's a few that just will not respond, and we do not want to have that line go by and someone come into this office later and say, you never told me anything about it, because there's, believe it or not, there's people that come home, go to work, don't watch TV, don't read anything, and don't answer the door, check their mail, and no matter what you do. So I'll have to put a letter in the door, knock on the door, so we can say later that, if they don't want it, well, please sign something, because later they'll come back and say, well, you never told me.
Right.
When will you do that, John?
As soon as they're done and they've achieved that, they've satisfied that they can't go any further, and we'll identify the properties. I already have 4 that John has identified, that I may have to take some with me when I go, but I will knock on the doors, so. To make sure they are notified that water's coming by, you're eligible for the water, for tie-in, please, we encourage you to tie in, so.
So on, through the chair, on those individual houses.
Yep.
Knock on the door, and then maybe we send a certified mail as well, if there's no
I think-
response.
Yeah, I think certified mail is the way to go also, even though I'm gonna go knock on the
Yeah.
door. But I think the problem with certified mail is
They get it.
they won't sign it. So it takes 2 weeks, I get it back, and then I have to have the sheriff
Mhm.
serve it anyway.
Well, I don't know if we have to have the sheriff
Yeah, it would be
serve 'em.
considered also that we tried, it came back, but you
Right.
never signed for
That,
it.
and that's what I was
It's
saying.
just as good as,
That's what I'm saying.
it's not like I'm trying to get something out of them at that point or take them to court.
Oh, right.
They have to have the sheriff serve it. I think, you're right, I'll have them sent out by the office, certified mail, and identify the properties. And if they don't sign for it, then
Right, it's a
later
refusal.
we're gonna have it in the file, we'll create a folder for it and say, hey, listen, we tried it, knocked on the door, sent you a certified letter, you refused to sign it, so, you can't say that we didn't try, so.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Do you know if there is a deadline to tie in, to sign up for this? I mean, if there's construction going down too, it'd be pretty hard to miss that as
Well,
well.
I think that was the, Robin was really stated to them, if you're working and still going by, they can tie in.
Okay.
She said, if you've completed construction and gone by, and it's too late. But I'm not gonna give you a definitive number and leave anyone out who may decide later, hey, or a house sold in the meantime,
Mhm.
and someone wanted it, and the prior owner didn't want it, that if you're going by and they're still doing construction, that they've made arrangements in this financial assurance that they could complete the 95 homes. They figured they'd get as much as 70 or 75, so if you're only gonna have 54, if someone in the end still wants to, it's still in the budget. It's still, the money is still there, it's not gonna make that much of a difference.
Okay.
So Robin stood fast on that and said, no, I don't wanna limit it if someone decides later they had a change of heart, just because, and if you're still working and going by, then they'll be able to. But once they've gone by and sealed that road over, then it's too late.
And then the cost is incurred by the homeowner at that point?
Yeah, and that's the problem. If they have contamination, they still refuse to sign in. Now you're still testing within the 500-foot area, and so it creates an issue.
So I'm suspect, and I know it basically crosses the door from the Board of Health and enters the door of the Water Sewer Commission. But I'm suspect that all probable sites would get the laterals tied in off the street.
They will.
So there'll be a lateral, so they won't have to open up the pavement. So then if vacant land or somebody that missed the bus on it, at least they don't have to open up the street. It's probably a curb cut and then back to the.
They will have it, you're right. The laterals will be there even for undeveloped property. If it's, you know, if you have a lot that's there, it'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mandated.
So you're right, it could tie in. But still, why would you want to, you know?
And I can't say that, because that's a lot of sewer, but I'm assuming that's probably how they would do it, so.
Well, we're waiting for things to happen. We need that pump station in.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
It's under the purview of the Water and Sewer Department to secure the certain property to get that going. So that's also going to tie into the Illinois Lane, Eachfoot Road, Berry Corner Road issue. So, but it's moving along. Thanks to everybody.
It's good.
You did a good job.
So, we got any questions?
What's gonna happen if someone has contaminated well, and for some reason or other, they decide they don't wanna tie into the water line?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. I think that's been a question that's been asked of me just as early as last week by Williamson Environmental. They feel that they want to tie everyone in and close that case, and that's the Honey Farm spill. There's one holdout, and they're asking that if the board would take action of mandating if someone has contamination of MTB or 1,4-dioxane or any kind of VOCs, that if the water's going by, that they would, because they feel they would still be mandated to provide him some type of filtration system, but they're working under the Superfund from the DEP, and the DEP wants to close this out. So the DEP, our tax money is actually paying, and the person in question is holding out, and he owns a business property and a 4-family, and he's the last holdout. But that's something that I couldn't make that decision, and that would have to come from the board.
Could the board mandate them to just tie
Well,
in?
that would be a discussion that the board would have, that if someone
I mean, they got.
it has contaminated water, and they would be forced to maintain it, how would we monitor a filtration system of someone who has a business and a multiple family dwelling, whether it's maintained or not, and tested properly? I would have to require that, and if he's not, it creates an issue, health and safety, especially if you have a 4-family and a business that's co-sharing a well, and it's not maintained. And I've spoken to him on several occasions. I even pulled the wife card and called his wife on him. And he wasn't very happy with me. She said she was going to get him to do it, but at this point, the engineer from, I told the engineer from Williamson Environmental that I would propose this to the board, but it's not a decision I can make. It's strictly the board would have to come up with some kind of regulation based
Right,
upon.
we should make a regulation that we mandate something like that.
You'd have to get it worded, I'm sure, probably through town council.
No.
We have it in the regs now.
We don't have the regs now. I mean,
And is it worded enough to be strong enough? to
this
say-
board at any time during a regular meeting can mandate to protect public health, safety, and the
Well, that's
environment.
what I was getting at.
Mandate any kind of, we can work on wording later, but that's so determined only by the board at a regular scheduled meeting. And I could run it by Cheryl Sabara, which wouldn't cost the town anything, but that's something that they've asked me, and I told the engineer from Williamson Environmental that that's something that I only could come from the board, and that I would actually pose that question, because it doesn't create an issue.
Sure.
It really holds things that they can't discontinue the testing, they can't discontinue the filtration, and now it lingers on, and at some point, the DEP may just say, guess what? You're on your own. Now it comes back to this board anyway, to say, hey, now you can't occupy, you need to show us that you've had your filtration system installed, because they're gonna pull theirs, and it's being properly tested.
It's bullshit they don't.
At one time, that well was a public water supply,
Yep,
and
you're right.
it's not anymore. It's
Not at
been,
this time, no.
it's been declassified as a
Yep,
public water supply.
yep, absolutely, yep. But it is, and you know what I'm talking about, I'm not gonna mention it, but you certainly know what I'm talking about where, so. But it's one of the reasons why that it's been declassified, because of the issues with the well.
So I'm not sure you answered the question.
Well, you kind of opened up the segue for me to ask the board. It's up to the board. If someone doesn't want to tie in and they have contamination,
Yeah.
I have no legal recourse other than to go to this board to ask them to develop adopt a regulation if they don't, they're mandated if you have contamination
Yeah.
based upon the following, that you would be
Because if-
mandated to tie.
You're not gonna tell them they can't use that well. And I don't think you should decommission my well after the water line is
Well,
installed. I
Well,
wanna continue using
that's in
it.
the agreement, so there's nothing we can, I can't agree with you there.
That would,
It-
what you're saying is two separate deals
Yeah.
though.
What I'm saying, Matt, is if you're telling me I can't use my well because it's contaminated once the water line is hooked up, why is someone else in the neighborhood who has the same contamination allowed to continue to run their well? That's the point.
I understand what your question is, but I don't see where that's happened. I don't
It hasn't
understand the
happened yet.
scenario. I know what you're saying, what you do for one, you must do for the other.
Right.
And I agree with that.
No, I'm saying, rather than pay for water that I wanna use to water my lawn, I'll run it out of my well instead. And if you're telling me that someone with a contaminated well does not have to tie into the water line, then why should I not be allowed to continue to use my well for whatever purpose?
And you're saying if you were
Yes.
tied in. So what I was trying to explain was the deal would be through, in this case, I guess Casella in the town of Southbridge.
Once you sign that agreement and they pay for it, you have to.
You're making a deal with the Casella in the town of Southbridge, maybe Charlton, but it wouldn't be the Board of Health. But it's an if-then for them. If they tie you in and fund that expense, then part of that deal is you must decommission the well. That's their permanent solution for that. This board has not mandated that at this time.
They have,
No, so if you don't wanna, at this point right now, if you wanted to tie in but you didn't wanna decommission your well,
Yeah.
you'd probably, at this point, you'd probably be allowed to do that, but you'd have to fund it yourself. You'd have to fund your own tie-in. That's how I understand it at this point.
Do you have any more questions? Is that them?
Yep, no one has any more?
Front Road, noise complaint. Jim?
I received some complaints of noise, and we developed a log.
Is this an agenda item that we're talking about?
Yeah, under new business, noise complaint.
Well, we
It's
have.
supposed to be a protocol, is what it's there, but.
So is this two different things, is what my question is? Are we talking about noise complaints, or are we talking under new business noise complaint protocol? Because I think they're two separate
It
issues.
depends what you want to do. If we don't want, I'm just telling, this is what the complaints I received, and we're just documenting them in a spreadsheet, so we have them and make sure we get back to everyone, so.
So through the chair, I guess my question is, under new business, the question is, the posting is noise complaint protocol. Are we going to talk about that, or, as Mr. Philbrook pointed out, there was some complaints. Did you want to talk about that? I'm just trying to clarify.
I think it was posed by,
I asked for the noise complaint protocol to be put on the agenda just because some folks in town have asked me, who do I call if there is a noise complaint? What do I need to supply for information? Is it an email, is it the police, is it the Board of Health, what? So,
And I think that I have received a lot of, well, 6 calls, I think, in the first week, none from the Charlton residents. They were from Sturbridge residents who had an issue, one on Podunk, one was quite far away. But I think that some of the questions posed to me by the Sturbridge Health Director were the issues, how come Kurt's not responding to these, or is the planning board taking action? I said, well, under the nuisance complaints, I have John Chronopoulos from the DEP gave me a noise meter and said that any complaints that come into the DEP will be acted upon by myself through the board, on behalf of the board, and I would handle those complaints. And that's from John Chronopoulos, and that's his section of it. So I said to them, I'm only trying to assist. I did not take any readings of it. I have gone out there and sat on the Podunk Pike. Jamie Terry did the same thing. We both felt that there was no issues on that side, that there were any noise that would be an audible thing to even meter. So, and I know that they have had they've also had their tests done, and I know there were some questions on the test as far as, and it does meet. They were on site to do the testing as far as the noise. The meter itself, the problem is if I'm sitting there at someone's driveway and a car goes by, it pegs. It doesn't peg, but if you go by with a Harley and there's 10 Harleys in the main road, the thing goes off the charts. It's going to, but I can't really go by that because I have to go to the site and then off. But that's a main road. If I sit on the Podunk Pike and a tractor trailer goes by with the car carriers that are there, it's not a good reading.
Through the chair, I'm still trying to clarify what we're talking about, because if we're talking about noise complaint protocol in general, town-wide, then I'm going to continue in this conversation. If we're talking about a specific noise complaint, specifically 508 International, then I'm gonna recuse myself from the conversation. So that's why it seems like we're blending back and forth here, and I just wanna clarify what
Just a
we're
question from the
discussion.
audience, if I may,
What's that?
through the chair.
Go ahead.
How did this come by way of the agenda?
Jim takes all the calls.
It was asked by one of the board members to,
I
John
asked to
Sanborn
have it put on the agenda.
You asked to put it on the agenda?
Yes, I did,
Why is that?
because I've been having questions posed to me from area residents about who to call. Who to call, when to call, what to include, so I have a list of things that I just wanted to clarify with the board to see, we don't want to be bothering the police if they're not to be involved. We want to make sure, do I provide cell phone number, your cell phone number?
if anyone calls this office, and my business card has my cell phone on it, but if anyone calls this office, press 2, it dials my number directly. Or if you need Jim Melly, the press 1 dials directly, so.
So have these questions been just related to 508, or they're town-wide about noise complaints?
This is, I don't know, I was asked, and the people said, who do I call about noise complaints? And I said, I'll have to take that up, because I have no idea. I don't know who to call.
Jim?
So,
Yep.
no, go ahead, because I just want to check these off so that I'm sure that we've got this correct. Your
If you-
cell phone,
My cell phone,
okay, and I've got
you
that.
can email or text me. I know that I've been in contact, that I have to respond to any complaint, and at least I would try to get back to anyone who issues a complaint to let them know that we're aware of the current situation, we have received a complaint, and we put it in a log. We ask them, it's okay if we keep it on a spreadsheet, and that's what we do. Especially, we do the same thing with Casella for noise complaints or odor complaints. We create a log sheet, keep a spreadsheet, and we keep them there, and we forward them to only for Casella, we forward those to the DP. But I have not deemed that there was an exceedance when I was there of the noise.
And what day was that?
That was the first one, so, yeah.
All right, so, let me just continue on here. If they don't get through you, they have to leave a message either here or an email or
On my
whatever.
phone, yeah.
Okay, name, address, telephone number for
Yes.
the person who's calling, the time that they heard, whatever, the direction that the noise came from?
Yeah, and permission if I can go on their property.
Okay. I realize that you're not just sitting, waiting.
Well, at least go into their driveway, but I need permission to, you know.
Okay. Whether the noise was in somebody's house or in their yard, how long it lasted, if it's continuous and so forth, things like that. That to
Some
help
people
you.
have actually sent me an audible video of the noise.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So does that cover it, you think?
No, because I have no way of measuring something.
No, I mean, that's it for information.
that,
To
yes.
be provided by
Yeah,
somebody.
and
Okay. All right.
they can just, if I don't answer, I certainly get the message and I'll call
You'll
them back.
attend to it and get back to us.
Yep, absolutely.
Through the chair,
Yes.
just a question, being from potentially another town, with noise complaints from another town, and just given my uneducated opinion and watching of this, I've seen you guys dealing with Casella. Some complaints from Charlton have come to this office about Casella being a business that's in Southbridge. And I've heard the discussion of, well, Jim can take the complaint from the Charlton resident and, you know, then it's gotta go to the town of Southbridge. Not Southbridge making a complaint to Charlton. So correct procedure for people from Sturbridge, because I see them on this building, predominantly Sturbridge people. Wouldn't procedure for them to be to call Sturbridge and then Sturbridge reach out to you, just procedure-wise?
Go ahead, Jim.
I received complaints from Sturbridge also. I called Jamie Terry, who's the health agent. Like you said, if I can't issue a ticket or a violation to the town of Southbridge for the landfill, it's not under my jurisdiction. But certainly if anyone calls with a complaint, from Sturbridge, I would call Jamie Terry, which I have. We've been in conversation, and we both sat on the Podunk Pike and deemed that there was really no, and she agreed. She did call me, she wasn't around for the last one, and someone had sent her an audible recording of their backyard, and she wanted to know if I had taken a reading. I said I did not receive the complaint. She gave it to me on Monday. Well, Monday it's over, so it's really hard for, you know, for me to, but I did not log the Sturbridge complaints on our run card, but I haven't been speaking to Jamie Terry, who I'm trying to work with her also, and she's asked to accompany me if there's a complaint from a Sturbridge resident, that she would call me, and I have the meter, and we would do a reading, so she's there with me, and we could let the Sturbridge residents know that it's just not myself, that their representative from the Board of Health was also there, and we both agreed. And you try and work that way, we certainly don't want to, but we did act on any of the complaints that were acted on, all of them, whether it is Sturbridge or Charlton.
Anything else?
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna recuse myself on this, because it seems to be heading in the direction of 508, so I'm gonna recuse myself from this conversation.
I'm trying to stay away from that, but I
It
keep
keeps blending
I
back.
keep going back in, so, but that's, but you're right, as far as jurisdictions, I am the I Health Director, I am not the Southbridge, and I'm not Sturbridge, but we try and work together if there's a complaint to act on any nuisance or any complaint. Because she has, Jamie Terry, as the Sturbridge Health Director, has a responsibility to act on this complaint. And there she is, I just mentioned her voice, her name, she ran in, so.
I heard my name, so I
Perfect
came
timing.
So,
Jamie, you wanna sit up here?
Yeah, not really. I'll sit right here, how's that?
Jamie, I did mention your name
I came
about,
not to talk.
about the complaints we received on the first, not this weekend, but the following, the weekend before.
Sorry.
And we sat on the Podunk Pike, and you were also, that even if there's a complaint from a Sturbridge resident, that's your jurisdiction, certainly I would call you, and we, as I said, we'd both go out and we would do the metering together.
Sure. And we've discussed it, we have a game plan. I guess we sat together for maybe an hour last week and talked a little bit about what we would, I guess the protocol that we would follow
Yep.
if a complaint came in. And I don't know if you already talked about this, but I talked to DEP, a different person than Jim talked to at DEP, to kind of get guidance from them as to what we're supposed to do and kind of the way we're supposed to move for that. And the person I spoke to was Michelle Del Mar, and she had very strong guidance that the Charlton Planning Board approved the 508 International, I think that's what the technical name is, under their planning board approval to be in compliance with the guidance the DEP puts forward for their noise control. And that it was her opinion that if there was a question of violation or concern, a complaint of any kind, that it would be up to the planning board and members that enforce the planning board regulations in Charlton who would move forward and investigate the complaints.
The planning board.
See, that's, and John Konopoulos, who's her boss, who gave me the meter, had a whole different, he kind of washed his hands in it and said it's a local jurisdiction thing, and I'll refer all her calls to you.
And I wouldn't say that was different than what Michelle said.
Yeah.
She said it wasn't gonna be a DEP investigation,
And
but she said.
also identify yourself, because Andrew's taking notes.
Sure. Jamie Terry, resident in Charlton, but also Sturbridge Board of Health interim agent.
Okay, thank you.
So Jamie, just one last thing. Jim's got a cell phone number if Charlton residents have a noise issue. You also have a cell phone?
It's my private cell phone.
Okay.
I do check my email throughout the weekend. I would tell people they should probably email if they have a
Okay.
concern.
And the Sturbridge residents have found my phone number, and they did call me, so, and I would call you in turn, so.
Yeah, so Jim and I have a great working relationship. I do think that ultimately, this seems to be a Charlton enforcement issue. I'm speaking personally, not necessarily for the Board of Health in Sturbridge. I think they may have different opinions than I do. But I do think that the jurisdiction falls far more heavily into Charlton than it does for Sturbridge. Again, the Board of Health may not feel the same way, so that's my personal opinion.
Okay.
And like I said, we have a good working relationship, and we're just trying to,
If you have any problems, you'll take care of it.
yeah, and I'll be in contact with Jamie, so.
We have a question from,
Mr. Chair, question. So I filed a complaint on April 22nd, a noise complaint, and have not been responded to by either of the agents. And so I want to understand how this is going to work, because it does absolutely.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Stephen Chittister, 154 Podunk Road, Sturbridge.
Did I speak with you?
No.
When did this call come
I placed a complaint on April 22nd. It's my understanding that Mr. Holbrook was out of town.
in?
Oh, it wasn't.
So can I speak to that even though I'm not your town? I did receive your complaint. I did go to your house and sit in front of your house, not on the day of the event, because the complaint came through to, I know, but the complaint came through to me
Right.
from the chairman of the Board of Health. And so that's how I knew that you had contacted him. I think that I think that you didn't contact our health department office, if I understand, until Monday?
No, I'm pretty sure I left a message on the email, or sorry, on the voice message for the.
Yeah, Jim, that's the one you sent to me on Monday that I spoke about.
Yeah, so I believe that it
Point of
came
order,
to me.
we're talking Sturbridge stuff here in Charlton. It's not the place for this.
Yes.
Can I just comment on that? You are still the enforcement town, even if it's a complaint that comes through Sturbridge.
You guys are
Through the chair.
strategizing on what your protocol is for Sturbridge, and right now we're in Charlton. So we're addressing his concern, but it's point of order, it's drifting off, in my opinion.
I just want to understand if we're going to get responded to, immediately, or, obviously, hours later or the next day, it's too late. So it does absolutely, I want to know how long we have to wait and endure the.
My business card is right in front of you, grab one, my cell phone is on there.
Through the chair, Sturbridge residents need to take their objections up at the town of Sturbridge, not in Charlton.
Yes.
That's a Sturbridge issue. If Mr. Chidester is seeking an issue about a noise complaint in Sturbridge, naturally, he's not going to come to Charlton and ask for assistance. He's got to go to the Sturbridge Board of Health, that's correct procedure. From there, the health agent makes a determination to talk to our Board of Health. That's the chain of command, that's the procedure.
That is.
I can't understand how a resident from Sturbridge would be coming to this meeting and talking about something that's happening in Sturbridge. That's not our business.
Chairman, we have to act on any complaint that would be responsibility of the board that would fall under my jurisdiction as the agent, as the director, whether it's anyone who issues a complaint, regardless of where they live. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Bob Brunel, Brookfield Road resident. Just to clarify an issue, the DEP is very clear on this about noise from originating in one town and surrounding towns complaining about it. So I suspect many of us here haven't read that, but it says that actually an adjoining town can shut down the noise in another town.
It's called the Massachusetts Good Neighbor Policy.
Jim, you have anything to say on that?
The right to his opinion, and he can issue any complaint to this board, and we'll check on it, so.
Are we talking specifically about 508
Yeah, I
or
am.
violations in general?
No. I'm talking about 508.
Because if it's noise violations in general, you see how we are up against the wall with Casella and how we have violations and how we're trying to combat that with a different town. We can't shut down Casella. Hasn't happened.
I'm talking quote, noise, unquote, and it's a specific policy. It's only a 2-page policy. I wish I would have brought a copy with me, but you can get it on the website. Look at noise policy DEP.
Through the chair, I think there's a big discussion going on right now about noise. The question of whether or not you violate the noise thresholds is a whole nother subject. If you can hear something, it may not violate. So, you know, the only way to do that, the only way to make the determination is to have a reading done with the background ambient that's been established by the sound studies in the past.
That's what
And
we've been
that
doing.
information is available, and so are the instruments to do the background reading at the time of the alleged violation. Short of that, there's no evidence stating anything other than what's been documented already to date, being studies that have been done and information